Look at this.
There's a really good story that we would love to tell to you guys about our campground. You can hear all of the road noise behind us. It is probably very loud because there's a lot of ATVs and UTVs going by. And that's because where we're staying here in Hill City, South Dakota, it's like a wonderland for people who love off-roading. That is what we have sort of learned. A lot of people come here for that purpose. Of course, we're very close to Lake Sturgis, so there's also a lot of motorcycles around, but basically, it's a really big outdoorsy town.
And this particular campsite has trails on it, so we're one of the very few campers here that's just a travel trailer. We don't have a toy hauler, we don't have a fifth wheel, we don't have the patio and everything, because everyone's coming here to play. So, you know, is this the right campsite for us?
No, it is definitely not the right campground for us. Is it the wrong campground for everybody? No, it is perfect for some people. As Derek said, if you are a person who has a toy hauler, if you're a person who brings an ATV on vacation with you, well then buddy, let me tell you, Black Hills Trailside is the RV resort for you. You ride by this place and it's nothing but party patios down, ATVs parked everywhere. But it is not for everybody. And the reason it's not for us is the spots, one, very, very close together. I mean, we haven't been able to do a campfire, which is something that we really enjoy at all, because first of all, our neighbor who's like 2 feet away from us,
kind person too.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, lovely. He was delightful. He tells us as soon as we pull up on day one, because he does have a toy hauler, and toy haulers are storing all sorts of extra gasoline for the toys. And he's like, hey, I've got a lot of gas in here, and your fire pit
30 gallons.
Yeah, your fire pit is 1.5 feet from where that gas is. So yeah, it's not great. And because it's so tight, his stinky slinky, you know, the poop hose, literally was snaking all through where we would sit on our side lawn.
I sat next to that for 3.5 hours
while you talked. And there's a tree right above us that is so overgrown that you can't put out the awning. So this campsite is not really designed for people who travel the way that we do. People who like to sit outside, enjoy a campfire, although in fairness, it's been a little too hot for a campfire, but it's really designed for people who are out there playing each and every day. Now, right behind us, there is a pretty big road, and I'm sure you can hear all of that noise. But between us and the road is this lovely stream, this lovely creek that goes through. People are fishing there. People are doing tubing along this little river. It's so cute and it's so lovely. And it is not the type of thing that Miles wants. What Miles wants is a big old swimming pool with a big old slide.
Giant bouncy pad.
He enjoys more of those traditional amenities that you expect from a campground. And right down the road, maybe 10 minutes from here, is the second largest KOA, the Mount Rushmore KOA. And I knew this. I could have booked us at that KOA, and that KOA, I took Miles over there one day just to check it out because he was kind of bored here. There's not really a good playground. It's not for him.
So he can't skateboard here, it's not paved.
Right, so I took him to the KOA, and we went because I wanted to do a truck wagon dinner, and they have one there. And I was calling, couldn't get through to the truck wagon dinner. So I said, let's just drive over there and see if we can get in. spoiler alert, we could not get in. And so truck wagon dinner is not happening here in South Dakota, unfortunately. We went over there and Miles's eyes just lit up when he saw it. He was like, Mom, what did you do? Why are we not staying here? It had playgrounds galore, water slides, pools, water splash areas, stables with horses. As I mentioned, they have their own little brew house on site for us. They had a coffee house, a wine bar.
Everything.
I mean, it's amazing. Why didn't I book it, right? So I know what type of travelers we are. Why didn't I book it? And I'll tell you what, well, it is and it isn't. So when I am searching for a campground, I do all of our itinerary planning. I do keep in mind, of course, what types of amenities we're looking for, but because we're working on the road, and specifically Derek's teaching live classes with students who are logged in, and so he needs to have really good internet. So I look to sites like Campendium, I read all of the reviews there, I go to Google reviews, and I look for campgrounds that say that they have good Wi-Fi, or more often reviews that say a campground has good Wi-Fi. Now, almost no campground really has good Wi-Fi, but I try to do the best that I can.
We found some on this trip that do, that I've taught 7 hours straight online with their Wi-Fi.
Yes.
So it's possible.
Yes.
And that's because of this research. So this research helps us, you know,
it does, but it's
the best.
It helps, but I've learned that it's not foolproof, because I will tell you, when I went over to that KOA, my phone hooked right up to their Wi-Fi. Now, what I think the problem is that KOA is so huge that it really depends where you're staying. So the reviews, when I read the reviews on Google of that KOA, they were really all over the map. There was good reviews, and then there were like 1-2-star reviews. And I feel like it depends on where in the park you're located, right? Because if you're very far away from the amenities, you're probably not getting good Wi-Fi. And it is big enough that could make a huge difference. But also, I read a lot of reviews when I went back and reread them, because I did go back and reread them. A lot of the reviews were from couples without children. Well, okay, I get that, right? Like, that's maybe not my cup of tea, and it's maybe not where we would stay if we were just a couple without children. So I maybe should have put more weight into that. And so I think really it taught us an important lesson about what we should be looking for, because I'll tell you, little secret, this campground here has not great Wi-Fi unless you are sitting up by the front office, which Derek did go do, because, you know, a man's got to teach, and we can't just use our jetpacks all day, every day. It really didn't end up having good Wi-Fi. The KOA had better Wi-Fi. So we're still on the hunt. I feel like this is a technology that can still be improved. I mean, not just Wi-Fi technology, of course, but I mean, it's a technology that could be improved in terms of reviews and ways to find the answer to that question.
And of course, we can add things to our rig to make it better. We could buy a Wi-Fi Ranger, which enhances the Wi-Fi signal from wherever you are. So it would take this signal and make it better, obviously.
Yeah.
We don't have that. Maybe in the future something to invest in. Maybe I just never teach during the summer or during trips again, which might be just more fun for me in general too. But it's a good lesson learned that you can do all the research you can, and it still may not end up the way you want it. So maybe looking at what are the other priorities that you have outside of this one thing.
That's true, but here's the thing. I'm still working. I am still uploading videos. Miles is still gonna want to watch streaming TV when he is in the camper, especially when we're staying someplace like this that doesn't have a ton of amenities. That makes him want to watch TV even more. So Wi-Fi is still important, and I do think all the campgrounds really have a ways to go in that arena. But I think really when doing research, for the future, and I have already gone and taken a look at where are we staying in the future? Where have I not booked yet? I've booked 98% of our spots for this trip, but I had a couple nights that I hadn't booked, and we were just gonna plan to boondock, but we have not had the best luck boondocking thus far in this trip. So I'm one, rethinking our boondocking strategy, and two, rethinking Miles's enjoyment and rating that experience a little bit higher. Now, if you are booking a campsite, you probably have different priorities. And so I think I've learned not to just go off of what campground has the highest review, right? A 5-star review, which is what this campground that we're at right now, this campground has a 5-star review. And if you are an ATVer, it's a 5-star experience.
Yeah. And that's most of the people here, so they're giving the reviews.
Yeah, 5-star for all of them. But if you are a family with a kid, I think the KOA is probably the better bet for you.
And I want to say too, looking through the reviews, I think that's a great point that, you know, we're at a specific site for a specific type of hobby, right? So the reviews are going to be high for that. And there's probably people listening to us saying, well, you're camping, don't be on your computer, don't watch TV, go out in nature. Well, sounds like that works for you.
Yes, that's great. So, you should look for a campground or a boondocking experience that gives you that. But
so you have to try to not worry about that stuff either. If you ask questions on Facebook and stuff and people come back with that, search for what works best for you and your family and nothing else.
Know the way that you like to travel. For us, we've talked a lot about the heat, a lot about the heat. So obviously hookups are going to be important to us. And power in general is important to us because we are people who are working on the road. That is something that is just going to have to be prioritized in our eye. But I think it just goes to show that any campground can be a 5-star experience. Well, I don't know if any of them, but some, you know, most. It just depends what you're looking for. Are you looking for something super cheap? Well, then if you just want bare bones things and you go to a bare bones campground, I might think that's only like a 2-star experience, but for you, you're like, great value for my dollar. So every person sort of ranks it different.
Yeah, and I would also look at your site, how many spaces are there? So if it has a large number of spaces, there's going to be a lot more feedback filtering in, and you're going to get a more accurate average number.
That's absolutely right. So this campground has a 5-star review. It has not that many reviews though. The second largest KOA has a lot of reviews, and that's part of what led to those sort of mixed results that made me disregard it.
Or distribution.
I did make one other error that I would like to point out, because if we're gonna say how the mistakes I've made, let's just keep it going. When I checked in here the other day, surprise, I had booked a whole extra day. I didn't know about it. I didn't notice until, you know, we got here.
But it's been great.
So stay tuned to learn more about the rest of what we enjoy here in South Dakota. It's an area that I really didn't know much about other than some hills and Mount Rushmore, and now I absolutely love it.